you, Monica. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order, January 25th, 7:00 p.m. on 2021. And I will read the public charge. The Board of Commissioners asks its members and citizens to conduct themselves in a respectful, courteous manner, both with the board and fellow citizens. At any time, should any member of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. Commissioner Jacobs, would you like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to this republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And could we just have a few minutes for reflection, given all the family and members in our communities that are continuing to lose loved ones due to the COVID pandemic. If we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Agenda adjustments. I'd like to check with the fellow commissioners if there are any agenda adjustments. Hearing none, we'll move on with announcements. So tonight, commissioners, our clerk, Monica Toomer, will read the announcements for us.
Good evening, commissioners. Our announcements are as follows. COVID-19 vaccination remote site. Southern High School, located at 800 Clayton Road, has been designated as a vaccination access site. Citizens are reminded that vaccines at this remote site are by appointment only through the Durham County Public Health Appointment Line. Citizens are encouraged to call 919-560-4357 between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday to be scheduled. You may also visit www.decopublichealth.org/COVID-19 vaccines to be scheduled and for additional information. The Durham Community Resource Fair. Job seekers interested in connecting with amazing resources in our community are invited to attend this free virtual event on Tuesday, January 26th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Registration is required, and you can access this by visiting portal.premiervirtual.com, event register job seeker, Durham Community Resource Fair. All websites will also be published on our county website, and they can also be found on our agenda link for easy access. DPS Family Food Distribution, in partnership with Durham County Library and Interfaith Food Shuttle, Porch Durham will distribute pre-boxed non-perishable foods and fresh produce on Saturday, January 30th from 10 a.m. till 12 p.m. at the Durham County Main Branch parking lot. Welcome Baby Diaper Distribution. Welcome Baby is distributing free diapers, wipes, and toiletries to families on a weekly basis every Friday. Drive-through pickup is available at the Welcome Baby Cooperative Extension location at 721 Foster Street from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. No appointment is necessary. For additional information, you can contact 919-560-7150 or visit facebook.com/welcomebabydurham. Durham County Tax introduces live chat communication. The tax office has introduced a new live chat communication feature for obtaining property tax information. Citizens are able to chat online with a member of the tax office by visiting www.dconc.gov/tax. Your feedback is needed. The City County Planning Department is ready to present the initial results of input through its draft community objectives. Please visit www.durhammysocialpinpoint.com/comprehensive plan now through February 19th to share your feedback on the draft community objectives. For additional information about the new comprehensive plan process, you may contact City County Planning Department Senior Planner Lisa Miller at 919-560-4137, extension 28270. Innovate Durham 2021, a partnership between the City of Durham, Durham County, and Durham Public Schools that allows entrepreneurs to use local government as a laboratory to test products and ideas, is now accepting applications until February 15th, 2021. Please apply online by visiting www.tinyurl.com/Innovate Durham 2021 application. Need help paying your heating bill? Beginning January 2nd through March 31st, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program will open to all Durham County residents. Residents are asked to visit www.epass.nc.gov to view eligible criteria and apply for the program. Durham Pre-K Family Info Sessions. Residents interested in applying for Durham Pre-K should complete the interest form for the Family Info Sessions on February 6, 2021. Families will find out program information, application steps, and much more. 2 sessions will be provided in English at 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. and Spanish 10:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. Please visit www.durhamprek.org for additional information and registration. That concludes our announcements for the January 25th meeting.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was absolutely wonderful. We appreciate you doing that. We appreciate you for so much. So thank you. Board members, do you have any other announcements? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify one thing with the first announcement about the Durham County website and also Facebook page. With the website, thank you to our staff, IT and public health staff, that residents can now sign on not only to be on a wait list, get an appointment, but also a last minute call list for appointments. So we've got 3 different options there. I just wanted to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you. And our health director will be on a little bit later and he'll go over those as well. So thank you, Mr. Jacobs. We'll move on to the minutes. The board has before us the January 11th regular session minutes for approval. There was just one correction that I saw. The MLK resolution, I think you have, it was Commissioner Jacobs was listed as reading that. I think that I read that. If we could make that correction.
Yes, ma'am, we will update that.
Okay. Are there any other corrections? If none, I will accept a motion for approval.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay. It has been moved and second, moved by Commissioner Burns. Okay, I gotta remember. And second by Commissioner Alam. And the other thing tonight, commissioners, we're gonna have Monica call the roll. So she's gonna call the names for the votes.
Okay, at this time, we'll take a verbal vote on the approval of the minutes. Vice Chair Jacobs,
Yes.
Commissioner Alam,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
and Chair Howerton.
Yes,
All right, the item has been approved.
thank you. So we'll move on to ceremonial items. We have one ceremonial item tonight, which is the introduction of our new EMS, our Chief Paramedic, Mark Lockhart. Chief Lockhart joined the Durham County in November 30th of 2020 and has hit the ground running. He is responsible for leading and managing the daily operations of the Durham County EMS system. His responsibilities also include planning, clinical affairs, and professional development for the EMS team. I will ask Jim Groves and Jody Miller for further comments or remarks before we turn it over to Chief Lockhart for comments.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Manager, General Managers. My name is Jim Groves. I am your Office of Emergency Services Director. And it's my distinct pleasure to be able to introduce to you Mark Lockhart. Mark came to us most recently from the state of Wisconsin, where he ran their state program over there. We are so fortunate to have him on our team, and he is already like you said, Madam Chair, hit the ground running. His leadership presence and his ability to help staff navigate through our operational opportunities is very, very evident. So really happy to have him and happy to introduce him to you. So Mark.
Thank you, Jim, and good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening and just to have a minute to say hello. As Jim mentioned, I relocated to North Carolina from Wisconsin. Prior to that, had served in Virginia, and prior to that was in the St. Louis area, which is where I am from originally. My first exposure to Durham was in 1986 when I taught a class at Durham County EMS with Kevin Wilson at that time, and have been impressed with the organization since then. So the opportunity to come back and lead this exceptional group of women and men was one that I just simply could not pass up. So I thank you very much for allowing me the time to say hello this evening. Please know the hard work that these women and men are doing each and every day. I certainly appreciate it. I know you do as well. And we look forward to continuing to move forward.
Well, thank you so much again, Chief Lockhart, for joining us and joining Durham County government. We're fortunate to have you and as part of our team here. So thank you for choosing Durham. Comments from other commissioners? Okay, Commissioner Jacobs.
I just wanted to also welcome you, Mark. We're glad to have you, and Durham, especially during this time, the work that our paramedics and our first responders are all doing. And I get to work closely with some of the paramedics and Helen Ladd with our Durham County response to substance and medication misuse. So I'm excited about your involvement with that program as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just say
Okay.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. So that leads us down to our consent agenda. Mr. Manager, you want to walk us through these items?
So, Madam Chairman, I think let me get there. Items 005 is essentially the board approval of the landscape manual for the Durham revisions. Item 0022 is the consideration of the allocation of economic development funds for Tastiest gene therapies. Item 0036 is a request to appoint a special board of equalization and review for 2021. Item 0037 is an extension of the 2021 listing period for our business personal property tax. Item 0040 is the additional funding for the Hope Learning Centers. Item 0048 is a property tax release and refund report for the month of December 2020. Item 0068 is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council appointment. Item 0071 is a budget ordinance amendment. We're appropriating $950,000 of general fund balance to support funding the $15 an hour for DPS classified employees. And Madam Chairman, that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Manager. If we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, and we need a second.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Commissioner Alam and second by Commissioner Burns to approve the consent agenda. Now we'll need a verbal vote.
All right, we have Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Alam,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jacobs,
Yes.
and Chair Howerton.
And I'm an aye.
All right.
It's been approved 5-0. Okay. So our other items, business items tonight, the board has requested a public hearing, a public health focus from our county staff on COVID-19 response and effort. This discussion will be held by Health Director Rob. There you are. We're so pleased to have you back tonight to update us on what's happening in your area. I know a lot is happening.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement.
Turn it over to you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board, and as I always do, and of course, County Manager and General Management staff. We certainly thank you all, as we always do, for your support in our COVID-19 efforts. And I hope to give you at least 10 to 15 minutes, preferably a 10-minute update, and then open it up for questions as it relates to our COVID vaccination and all that we have going on with COVID. I'll just start by saying, again, how proud I am of the staff. They have been working tirelessly for almost a year. And, this is the heavy lift right now when it comes to vaccinations, primarily because we're dealing with a lot of constraints that are beyond our control, but they remain motivated. Last week was really a testimony to their true grit and their commitment to the community. We worked some very long hours in our vaccination clinics. And again, I'm just proud to be amongst them. And I just want to express that as I get started. As far as current trends, I just want to start off by saying Saturday was the penultimate day, if you will, because at the Health and Human Services building, we had the trifecta. We had in the parking lot COVID-19 testing.
Yeah.
On the third floor, we had COVID-19 surveillance. And on the second floor, we had COVID-19 vaccinations. Y'all, it just don't get any better than that. That is what it's all about. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we had it going on Saturday. So right now we are sitting at 1,255 total active cases. It continues to trend down. We have 17,631 inactive cases. That many individuals have beat COVID in Durham County. Our deaths have leveled off. We're at 180 deaths. And of course, our thoughts and prayers continue to go with those families who's lost loved ones to COVID-19. We are now at 19,071 cases of COVID since the pandemic began. Our 7-day moving average last week was, well, a few weeks ago was like 172. It was very high. We were seeing a lot of the results from holiday travel, and I'm happy to say that has leveled off. It has been said that we have peaked as a nation in terms of COVID-19 infections. My staff doesn't really feel it, but that's what state epidemiologist Dr. Zach Moore is saying. That's what now national experts are saying. However, we continue to stay vigilant because there are variants out there. And it's been confirmed that the variant B117 has appeared in Mecklenburg County. And we were prepared for that information because North Carolina is a county, I'm sorry, is a state that's well traveled. So we continue to be on the lookout for that. Not much change in terms of demographic information. Our Hispanic, Latinx population continues to be overrepresented. However, they're representing now 18.22% of all of our cases. Black or African American continue to represent right at 38.30% of our cases, slightly overrepresented. And whites continue to be underrepresented at 27.32% of our cases. Still seeing COVID cases in clusters in, nursing homes, some in hospitals, primarily in the professional. So not much has changed on that front. So we continue to see an increase in our cases. However, it is beginning to level off, and we're glad about that. And we're continuing our COVID-19 surveillance efforts in earnest, and just want to really communicate that to you all. Now let's talk about COVID vaccinations. COVID vaccinations are going extremely well. I will say, as Madam Chair has indicated, we do have the booking app available for appointments. That went live last week. And so far, as of last week, we were at 1,400 plus residents who have been scheduled for appointments, and that list continues to grow. The Durham County homepage has been updated to make it a lot more easier to get to the booking app, and we certainly appreciate the partnership of County IS&T under the leadership of Greg Morrow. He's been phenomenal, and I've attended a lot of calls with them, so we appreciate that partnership. Our call center continues to be robust, and we continue to try to staff that with as many people as possible. And of course, as seen around the country, the number of calls are certainly overwhelming our infrastructure. These phone lines simply weren't built to withstand thousands upon thousands of people calling, but we are getting better. And we are continuing to work with IS&T to identify some advanced solutions that will allow for easier access to appointment schedule. And we do have a couple of solutions that we are in the process of reviewing. So we hope to have that come alive real soon. Again, some additional highlights, as I've said to you all last week, OptumServe is gearing up to become a major vaccine provider in Durham. Our responsibility as Durham Public Health is to identify a location. We will go on site and scout out a few locations on tomorrow around 11 o'clock. And we are working with Durham Public Schools to make that happen. While this may not be a permanent location, we do invite OptumServe to be able to vaccinate anywhere from 1,100 to 1,200 individuals per day. So we will certainly take that as a win. Additionally, we are delighted to report that the state of North Carolina and Fidelity have pretty much reached an agreement as far as hosting a mega site. For the most part, we're still working out the particulars involved with a memorandum of agreement. Just want to remember that this was something that Secretary Cohen has said that will be placed in Durham and has the capacity to vaccinate anywhere from 45,000 of our residents per week. So again, a lot of our residents have been asking, we're going to have some additional sites, and the answer is yes. We just, again, continue to beg your patience. Help is on the way. And again, Durham is also, we also receive additional resources through our request from State Emergency Management. We did receive approximately 5 individuals this morning who came to help our efforts, anywhere from vaccinations to data management to just helping with crowd control. We are certainly appreciative of that. And as reported through press conference last Thursday with the North Carolina National Guard, we have 12 North Carolina National Guardsmen who are with us. 2 are permanent vaccinators, and the other 10 are doing data management with our COVID vaccine management system. And that is continuing to go well. I'm proud to report that we are actually on real time. So there is absolutely no backlog. As soon as we get the people in, they get the paperwork, they come around periodically, grab the paperwork, enter it into the CVMS system. It is certainly working like a well-oiled machine. And I am so delighted to really say, as a former National Guardsman, how proud I am to be working in concert with the North Carolina National Guard. We also have, again, since vaccines have been made available to my commissioners, that was December 21st, we have vaccinated approximately 4,100 of our residents and individuals from neighboring counties. I do want to stress that we are getting an influx of people from neighboring counties. Again, this is a vaccine without borders, and we welcome them. They schedule an appointment. We'll do our best to oblige. And a lot of it is really determined upon individuals who really determining when they can get the appointment the quickest. And as of last week, Durham has been it, and we've gotten a lot of people from neighboring counties. We've also transferred approximately 5,425 doses to our community partners. I just want to really take a point to say this was encouraged by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and the majority of that 5,000 certainly went to our partnership with Southern High School, with our partnership with Duke, and that is going extremely well. Our responsibility is to serve as the master scheduler, so we schedule our residents for that site, and then we also provide the vaccine for that site. So again, we are delighted that that partnership continues to go well. A bit about future allocations, and there's been some information in the media, and I definitely want to to report to my governing board to let you all know that an increase in demand has occurred really at the same time that the federal government, in between administrations, the federal government and manufacturers are finally, really coming clean and saying that current inventory and production capacity are insufficient for first dose supplies. And we did hear that Moderna and Pfizer were a little bit behind, and there are some supply chain issues, and it was to be expected. However, we were directed by the governor and secretary to really, ramp up our operations and exhaust all first doses by 5 o'clock today. And I will say that we have accomplished that. And, we took what we're supposed to do. And unfortunately, some counties did not receive allocations of first doses. We've heard that from Orange County. We've heard that from a number of different counties, not to drop names or anything, but press releases have gone out. I'm proud to report that Durham County has enough first doses to take care of our residents this week. There was a conference call this afternoon with Secretary Cohen and Director Sprayberry to really chart the path forward. And for the next 3 weeks, we have been all but guaranteed to receive vaccines here in Durham. Tomorrow, we will find out exactly how much it is. But we will shift our strategy accordingly. But rest assured, we are doing all that we can to make sure that vaccine comes. It's one thing for me to say we have these partnerships coming up, and then it's another thing to say we're not exactly certain about our vaccine. I did have a conference call at 5:30 with Department of Public Health and DHHS leadership to really appeal Durham's case. Saturday, I crafted a letter just really explaining what all we're doing, all the great things we're doing. And I actually, in the absence of an appeal process, I just made an appeal. They heard it, and they heard me out, and they just said, no, we're not going to shortchange you. We're going to, boost up your allocations to serve our Optum, because those vaccines are going to come from us, and we'll store it and manage it. And then, they said, we do recognize that you have a great partnership with Duke, so we're going to take all of that into consideration. So to be determined as to what allocation we receive. We're going to continue to work with our partners to do all that we can to make sure the vaccines continue to go into the arms of our residents. I'll just conclude before I take questions by saying it has been delightful to see our seniors come in. We vaccinated a lady who is 99 years old today, 99. And she was just as joyful and delightful to receive her vaccination. And it's a team effort. I take zero credit. It's all of us, and all of us, I'm talking from general manager, county manager to public health staff. It's all of us. So again, we're doing everything that we can. It's only going to get better. We have 2 candidates for emergency use authorization coming up in February. So, more vaccine comes on the market, the more that we can do in Durham. And I'm just delighted to be a health director in this time. Again, we thank you so much for your support. I'm going to try to answer your questions if you have any.
Rob, we are so proud and thankful that you chose Durham. And I know it doesn't feel like you just got here, because there's been no honeymoon period. I mean, you haven't had one of those, not here. But we are so elated that you're here. And I was there on Saturday, and I felt so taken care of from the moment I hit the door until you sent me on my way. So I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing right now, and open it up for my commissioners to ask questions. Commissioner Alum.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I want to thank and give a shout out to our Director Jenkins and General Manager Pierce, who we've gotten several residents who've expressed frustration with, we're trying our best, and all of our team members are trying their best to up this process to get the vaccine out. And they've personally gone out of their way with everything already on their plate to address resident concerns. So I just want to give them a shout out for being amazing in this entire pandemic and this really tough time, for continuing to prioritize people and giving that personal touch that's so important right now when all of us are social distancing and living through a stressful time. So thank you. I also I had seen an article this morning or sometime today that I think to build the community's trust around the vaccine, and maybe Director Jenkins, you may have more information on it, that the Moderna vaccine, Moderna had released that only 10 out of the 4 million people who've received the vaccine have had any side effects or have reported side effects. So this is a really safe vaccine. Both of the vaccines that have been released are very safe and effective in doing their job.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much for your warm comments. And we appreciate your leadership, but particularly, what can I say about my goal to general manager, Joanne Pierce is awesome. And she has been with me lockstep, long nights, emailing back and forth just to make sure that we can address those things. But you're right. And I have taken up residence in the vaccination clinic, as some of you well know, and just really to be on the pulse of the action. And Commissioner Lum, you're absolutely correct. I mean, there's been very, very few situations in which there's been certain reactions. You know, all of last week, I think we may have had 2 scares, but it really was pre-existing situations. You know, somebody didn't eat before they came, or somebody's sugar went down prior to even getting the vaccine. So, you know, again, it's safe. We're continuing to do all that we can, Commissioner Lum and other commissioners, to spread great information about the vaccine, as far as just going to have, you know, availing ourselves to, you know, different groups to speak about the vaccine, and really giving personal testimony about, you know, what I went through as a Black man, as far as getting the vaccine and everything. And so far, so good. But we appreciate your comments.
Okay, Commissioner Burns.
I just, you know, I know the public probably thinks, you know, why are we piling on so much love and praise to Rodney Jenkins? If for no other reason, we need to pile it on because he didn't even have time to shave today. Because I don't remember you having that beard the other day. So this brother has not shaved. So I mean, his wife, you know, like, I know he's gonna get me later. But I, you know, just to add a little bit of levity here, I'm not an emotional person, but when I think about the way in which we get emails from everybody, and I do mean everybody at all hours of the night, and the way that I know, you know, Commissioner Jacobs and Commissioner Carter, myself, and Commissioner Law and Commissioner Howerton have so many questions for y'all. Even after y'all have given us facts, sheet knowledge, y'all will say, okay, we'll explain it again. And you do it in such a way so that we can actually, you know, go out and give very good detailed information, because many of us do still talk to churches. Many of us do still talk to HOAs and community groups, and they hunger for it. And, you know, just one email from one person that somebody sends that you all answer, it really does arm us so that we can do more in the community. I did want to point out, you know, I got to watch the process, just like you said. I want to tell America, Durham, if you get there and decide to change your mind, you have very little time to do it, because as soon as you get in there, 10 minutes, they like, go over there and get your juice and crackers. Like, they've already moved it. And so I don't know, it's not like Carowinds where you get on a ride and you got to wait in a long line. No, they don't have time for you to run and scream. This is not like the dentist office and you're a small child or a booster shot. Like, when you turn your head, that's it. And so I was really happy to see the seniors there. I thought it was hilarious. Rod, you were beside me when a group of seniors sat down and started doing their arm exercises. Like, they were ready. They started, like, everybody else is just sitting there knowing their arm gonna be sore in like 30 minutes. Not this group that was, they started doing windmills, and we said, let's get out the way, because we don't even, but, you know, so just know that the education that's going on, the stuff that your people are telling, like, we can actually see it in action. The other thing I really want the public to know, and I know there are a lot of people tuning in because they were tuning in for other things when, you know, I'm happy that we got them at this point. And this is not to jump on anybody on here, you know, but I really don't think people understand that these folks under his leadership have done everything we asked them to. The portal is open, the website is open, there's an app open, the wait list is open, there's a site open at Southern, so it's more inclusive. There's a site open downtown. These folks are in here, and these are county employees. I know a lot of times people don't think that they, you know, a lot of people say they care about labor. Well, if you care about labor, you care about all labor. And I sat in that room and I watched these individuals walk continuously and check on people. Even though we had them socially distanced, when you check on people, there's only so much social distance that you can do. And they're working on a Saturday. And I think even though it closes at 7, if I'm not mistaken, y'all are not getting out of there till 9:30. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that's a very long day. So you have to be there before everybody else and leave after everybody else, because what we don't want is to have this stuff broken into. We don't want things to be missing. And then you're working on Saturdays, and I mean, you're working on the weekends, and Mr. Jenkins, I don't even want to say Rod, is sitting in the back of that room watching his folks. He could be at home. That is a true servant leader, because he doesn't want his flock there and he's not there. And that's real leadership. And I'm throwing it all out there. Everybody wants the vaccine. Everybody wants to push, but nobody thinks that these people deserve hazard pay. So this isn't a public service announcement. I just want you to know they are grinding their gears 15, 20 hours a day to make sure that we have everything that we possibly need 7 days a week. And I want you to start viewing them as labor too. Don't say, well, why didn't I get this? I want you to look at them and recognize that they deserve it. And so, Rod, I don't know what's going to happen. Clearly, I ain't going to do no bait and switch tonight. I just want you to know, from me to you, it was really emotional for me to see all of those people in there working on 3 different levels and outside. And then I drove to Southern because I didn't know they had opened on the 19th off the top of my head. And just to see that many county employee workers, and I know you've been creative with trying to make sure their schedules are okay, but I've never been prouder of a group of people. And so I just, to your staff, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And 1,000 tons with 1,000 thank yous would never be enough for the sacrifice that they make. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Burns, and rest assured I will certainly relay your well wishes. And again, the long hours are worth it. We just want our community to be vaccinated, and we want good outcomes. So again, like I said, I couldn't be more proud of the staff. And there were a couple of commissioners in there when we had our rah-rah session after hours or whatever, but that's what we do, and we try to enjoy each other, and the work is hard, but it's so worthwhile. It is.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat I can be an echo to the cheering squad, but I also want to just thank you, Rod, and all your staff. I almost didn't recognize you tonight, not just because of the little shadow that Commissioner Burns noticed, but also because you're not wearing a bow tie tonight.
All right.
So, yeah, I just want to echo everyone. I really appreciate how it's been a constant adjustment every single day, that you and your staff have been continually adjusting conditions and doing what needs to be done. And I know it's going to be, unfortunately, like that for the weeks and months ahead. So you don't have to answer this now, but one of the things I did want to say to you was just letting us know what additional resources that you might need, because we are the city of medicine. We have so many retired nurses and doctors, and I know people who would want to step up and help and try to support you and your staff. So, and people need to be paid as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I have a number of follow-up questions. I'm going to just follow up by email. Thrilled to hear about the mega site with Fidelity. I mean, if we actually had 40,000 vaccines to give out, we could get our entire community vaccinated in 7 weeks, which would be just a dream. I have a question also just to you about some of the recent articles that are coming out about the new virus and just some of the new studies about masks, and just wanted to just hear if you had any thoughts about that. There's been a lot about how we should start really thinking about the quality of masks now that with this new very contagious strain is coming. Do you feel like at some point you may put out new guidelines for our community related to that? Some they're talking about wearing double masks. And then also related just to this new strain, we're going to have to really be careful over the next few months because of how contagious it is, and whether you all may end up having some recommendations about that as well.
Sure. I think I'll start off with the mask. Again, we have seen different articles about double masking and, preferential treatment toward N95s and everything. Again, we certainly want people to, again, wear the mask that makes them most comfortable. But again, we have been a leader in mask mandating. And, I do credit the former chair. Again, she was really jumping up and down and really passionate about it. And I think that was certainly a win for us as a county. And we quickly became the envy of other counties to where they were asking us how we did it. I will also say to the board that, again, we still want to continue to get our residents to double or triple down on the 3 Ws. But again, the mask wearing is where it's at. I expect to receive more guidance about masks from the state, particularly state epidemiologist, Dr. Zach Moore, because becoming such a raging topic. So, again, more to come. As far as variants are concerned, I am very concerned about it because now that it's here and we know it's here, it's only a matter of time before it really spreads. The good thing about it is the fact that they're saying Pfizer and Moderna, there's no slowing this vaccine down, and the vaccine's not less effective against this new variant. What concerns me is the fact that it's so contagious and it spreads so fast that it has the potential to make a lot more people sick. So again, I am more concerned about getting more vaccine so we can reduce, the susceptibility of getting this new variant. If we're not careful, to the board, members of the board, if we're not careful, come March, we may see another spike. We may see another surge. And this time it would be a whole lot more deadly. But again, to be quite honest with you, we've been battling and we've been fighting this the entire time. That's the reason why we've been, in the past, really encouraging the 3 Ws, but now we're really encouraging the 3 Ws plus getting vaccinated. That's the surefire way of beating the variants. So, Commissioner Jacobs, certainly look forward to your follow-up questions, but I don't want to take too much of your time because you guys got to. I see. And I will say this.
We need to let Commissioner Carter get in here.
I will say it was delightful to see you guys like incognito, because you tried to walk in and I was like, nope, that's Commissioner Burns. That's Commissioner Howerton.
I didn't want them to see me being acting like a baby because I don't like shots.
You did really well.
So Commissioner Carter, and then I think Manager Davis had something.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to pile on here, the praise. So well deserved. Rod, I remember when you were giving, I think, the first press conference when COVID was new and you were very new. And I remember that the chair of the Board of Health at the time, I had worked with him some, took me aside and said, we are so lucky in Durham that we got Rod Jenkins to be our health director. And boy, have his words played out to be true. I just really want to say how much I appreciate your strong leadership and the commitment of your team and your commitment to your team. I think that's really what one of the things that is very important to make this all work, and just really appreciate how quickly you've been able to help the county recover and face these changing expectations and sort of rules of the rollout. We may have had a little bit of a rocky start, but boy, all of the things in your report tonight just speak to how well we're doing now at getting the vaccine into people's arms. And it really does seem like we're vaccine limited now. It's not that we're service limited. And I just wanted to underscore that for, anyone in the community who's wondering, whose expectations are that we should be doing even more. It seems like we're doing everything we can at this point with service delivery, and it's just the vaccine that's a limiting factor now. And if there's anything we can do to help manage community expectations around that, please let us know.
We'll do it. And thank you so much for your warm comments, Commissioner Carter. And I'm so glad that you touched on the rocky start. Indeed, it was a little rocky, and took a few punches to the gut from the media, and that's okay. But I did not want our seniors to have a bad experience. I did not want them to be out in the elements like the rain today, waiting in long lines. I wanted them to come to a place of comfort and caring to where they could get their vaccinations from people who really care. And I think so far we're off to a good start, and we can only get better. As far as, we need for our commissioners to continue to be an extension of public health and be public health champions, and to encourage our residents to get the vaccine or to ask those questions to make that personal choice. We're so blessed to be in Durham because we are a caring community and there's so many people who really want to help. But the good thing about it is, you know, we're resource rich and we have the help that we need. So I'm going to be quiet and let Manager Davis say something because Commissioner Howard is looking at me.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my comments will be very brief. You know, we talk about all the great things that are in fact happening, and certainly my hat's off to the staff as well. But I also want to take an opportunity to acknowledge our community partners. You know, last week, the first 2 or 3 days when we opened up our call center and things were pretty bumpy and we weren't able to get the appointments in as quickly as we could and the community was frustrated. You know, we do a lot of economic incentive work. And so I called our dear friend Leslie Walden out at Fidelity. And Leslie said, you know, call center expertise is what we do. And so subsequently, they came in and lent the necessary technical assistance with our IT department to help make sure that we have the capacity to do the work that we needed to. So I wanted to, you know, thank our corporate partners in that space because there's so many of them that have been willing to step up and they consistently contact us and wanting to understand and know how they can help. And we utilize those resources. But I wanted to make sure that we paid proper deference and respect to their willingness to be a part of this solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. And I hope, Rod, you feel the love. You feel the love and your team feel the love as well. Even people that don't even work in the health department were there. I called a couple departments and they said they were working with you in the health department. So we just appreciate all the individuals, all the people that participated and continue to participate to make sure that our citizens are taken care of. So thank you again.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, commissioners, we have 2 public hearings tonight. The first one, the first public hearing is item 20043, Unified Development Ordinance Text Amendment. Amendments due to NCGS Chapter 160D, TC 200000004. And we have Mike Stock, Senior Planner, and Sarah Young, Planning Director, as resource persons for this item.
Thank you very much, Chair. Michael Stock with the Planning Department. I just want to say hello and introduce myself to the 2 new board members, Commissioners Burns and Alam. First time I'm meeting you and presenting in front of you, so I wanted to say hi and welcome and hello and all that other fun stuff. And that I will normally keep my video off because I have my bandwidth issues and where the computer is located in the house just doesn't allow me to present clearly for a long period of time, but I wanted to show my face and say hello, and that you'll see and hear more of me as the year goes on and such. So I will now tune out video wise. Hold on. Thank you. Again, my name is Michael Stock with the Planning Department, and before I begin, staff would like to state that all required notification for Planning Department public hearing items have been performed and are on file. In particular, for this case, text amendment TC 2000004 proposes revisions to various provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance in order to comply with statutory revisions associated with the new state enabling legislation, NCGS Chapter 160D. This includes necessary corrections and reorganizations and other minor changes. And also it does include some other technical changes for clarity or to remove redundancies. In short, 160D combines city enabling statutes found currently in Chapter 160A and county enabling statutes found in Chapter 153A into one set of statutes. Most changes are technical in nature. Some other are more policy related, and those include requiring constructive notice when an official interpretation is provided by the director. That has been added. Recordation of special use permits, that has also been added, and requiring appeals of Historic Preservation Commission actions to go to Superior Court instead of first to the Board of Adjustment. That change has also been proposed. The Planning Commission recommended approval on November 10th, 2020, and City Council has approved it at its January 19th meeting. One other thing I'd like to note, this will update you on one process change that 160D brings about, and it's not reflected in ordinance. This is a change to the consistency statements. As a few of you are aware or will become aware, we have currently state law requires the adoption of statements of consistency to the comprehensive plan and reasonableness associated with approvals or even disapprovals of zoning map changes and text amendments to the UDO. State statute under 160D now allows for the minutes of a hearing to meet the requirements of consistency and reasonableness statements for zoning and text amendments. After discussion and advice with the city and county attorney's offices, planning staff will implement this method once the ordinance is effective, most likely starting in February. The county clerk has been made aware of this procedural change, which will also require staff reading statements specifying information provided in the agenda items into the minutes. So therefore, no separate consistency statement documents will be required. It will be for approval of this one, but once this ordinance does become effective, it won't anymore. Again, thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I do believe that final approval of the ordinance will take place later this week, from what I understand.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Are any questions from commissioners to staff? Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you. Mike, I just seemed like, most of these were just kind of perfunctory things with the statute, but there seemed to be a lot of the discussion about vested rights. And I just wanted to hear from you kind of planning staff interpretation, like what are some of those underlying issues? And also from staff perspective, are there any red flags that we should just be aware of that you all maybe had concerns about, but we still can't really do anything about it because this is coming from the General Assembly, but just things that we should maybe just be aware of?
Sure. Probably the only thing to be aware of is probably what you brought up with the vested rights. There's always been vested rights statutes, which basically grants an applicant certain rights for development, regardless of certain future changes to laws or ordinances for a set period of time. I don't believe we have processed many vested right applications. The longest time I've been with the department, which has been since the early 2000s, there might have been one case that's gone through. The changes that are noted in the ordinance before you reflect the changes in state statute that kind of expand the idea of vested rights to what's called permit choice, which allows applications that come to the planning department certain vesting under certain maybe even past rules for zoning or other regulations based upon when they submitted other applications like a grading permit or something like that, so that where an applicant can choose which ordinance to come in under. That's about as clear as mud as I can explain it, but it does expand. In short, it does expand the ability to vest, not just through a site-specific vesting plan, which the past statutes and the current statutes still allow for, but also simply an administrative determination of say the permit choice application. That's probably the biggest kind of change. And actually a lot of the permit choice was in effect even before the 160D combination. They kind of made some changes to it and lumped it in with the vested right statutes. Otherwise, I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head or reading through it that is anything major concerning. I think some of the changes that I listed off in my introduction go to more transparency for certain decisions, and also process improvements for like appeals and such, and removing a board in the appeals process that really doesn't have a good understanding of historic preservation procedures and makes it consistent with other appeal processes. So I would say you're right, it's pretty perfunctory for the most part. The process change that I indicated for consistency statements, that was seen by both attorneys' offices as a great way to go. So that's also an improvement. I know City Council always was never terribly into doing the consistency statements. I shouldn't say into, but it's just an additional procedure that can often trip boards up, not just City Council, but even Board of Commissioners at times unnecessarily. So that is a process improvement, we think. So that's all I really have to say on it, but it's a good point to bring up.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. That was helpful. And the limitation on the vesting rights with a development plan is 2 to 5 years. Is that right?
For a site specific, yeah, that hasn't
Site-specific,
changed for that, and that would require a governing body approval. The other categories of vested rights that 160D discusses is more of an administrative permit choice type vesting.
Okay, thank you so much. That was helpful.
Any commissioners, are there any additional questions for staff before I open public hearing? Commissioner Burns?
Well, I was just gonna say thank you for giving us this kind of high level presentation. You hit it with Commissioner Jacobs' question, and you kind of followed up. But I did look at the Planning Commission comments, and it said, while there is a great deal to criticize in the new statute, you've kind of listed some of those, even though they voted for 13-1, and we have to, lean on the general statute. I would only ask if there is something that pops up, whether it be policy-wise, that might potentially be a stumbling block for us. I would hope that, we could email you or invite you back, because again, I know she talked about vesting. I know we talked about policy and additional paperwork and things going to Superior Court, and that's enough of its own. But, sometimes we can't forecast everything. So if there is some things that, again, are a great deal of criticism that we could give that are not, I guess, nitpicky, by all means, I would hope that you all would reach back out to us, because, this was very dense and I had to continue to call people to make sure I got it right. And one of the charges I've given myself is that I always want to make sure I can explain this to the community. So that's all I would ask of you, Mr. Stock.
Absolutely. And I don't blame you for believing it's very dense. It took me a while to go through it too, and it definitely wasn't just me doing it. I had a lot of other brains involved, and obviously consulting the city and county attorney's office. We're a joint jurisdictional department, so we get everybody involved, and sometimes it's just, we try to make it as clear as possible, and sometimes we can just do as best as we can with technical legal jargon. But yeah, if there's questions more than with things, please reach out to us. We always, other commissioners who have been on the board for a while are familiar with the omnibus text amendments that we bring to you on an annual or semi-annual basis for clarifying how our ordinances read, or updating them in a more technical manner, or to trying to make them function better or reflect interpretations better, that kind of thing. So we're always open to suggestions. We go through the Joint City County Planning Committee with these also, so commissioners and city council members get a preview before public hearings are initiated on these items. Commissioners Howerton and Jacobs are familiar with that too, and I don't know which other commissioners are joining JCCPC now. And we also, and Sarah knows this too, Sarah Young, our director, we often get questions from the manager's offices about legislative items that we want our legislative contingent folks in the state to address if there's an issue that we see in state statutes that Durham wants to kind of tackle or see changed or something. We bring those items to our delegates also. I guess on an annual basis too. We're tapped to contribute to that too. So we try to stay involved. We try to be responsive as much as possible.
Because it's always as clear as mud, isn't it?
Sometimes it's as clear as mud, and we do the best that we can. And sometimes we just do the best that we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mike. So I will now open the public hearing and have the clerk acknowledge any callers on the line or read any comments received.
Good evening, commissioners. We did not have any citizens request the call-in information, nor did they send emails pertaining to this public hearing item.
Okay. Do we have any other comments by commissioners? Not seeing any. I would like to close the public hearing. Due to virtual meetings, the new rules requires all public hearings to remain open for 24 hours to allow time for additional public comments. This meeting will reconvene on January 27th at 9 a.m., at which time a vote will be considered. The second public hearing is item 20.
Madam Chair, if you will, just announce that you're closing the public hearing for tonight. And then tomorrow, you get 24 hours after tonight's meeting to submit additional public comment.
Okay.
So just close the public hearing.
Okay, I said I will close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
And then I read the rest of the statement. You need me to read it again?
No, you're good.
Okay, thanks. All right, the second public hearing is item 20. What's that number? Let's see, where's my number here? 20, that's for the zoning map change.
Now, Commissioner, Chairman Redcat, oh God.
She's not here. She's not present.
Chair Howerton, if we do have I don't recall hearing it, but did we state what the actual date is that you're finally going to vote on this? So, because it would be recessed until what date?
The 27th at 9 a.m.
And did we announce that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
We did.
Very
Okay.
good.
All right. All right, the next one, I'm trying to find the rest of the number. It's a zoning map change, Harry Road D- annexation. It's Grace Smith, Assistant Planning Director, and Sarah Young, Planning Director, are the resource persons on this item.
Good evening, Chair Howerton and fellow commissioners. And it's nice to meet Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Burns this evening. Very good to put your faces with your names. I had a brief PowerPoint presentation that Ms. Toomer was going to pull up, I think. Okay. Again, I'm Grace Smith. I'm with the City County Planning Department, and I'm going to do a very brief presentation about the Terry Road de-annexation zoning map change. Next slide. So this property is located there's 3 parcels, 1230 and 1236 Terry Road and 1620 Scallybrook Road. The jurisdiction is the county. That's why we're here before you tonight. The total site acreage is 114 acres, slightly over 114 acres. The property is split in the suburban and rural tiers. The existing zoning is a city zoning designation known as Planned Development Residential. It should be Planned Density Residential. I'm sorry about that. 2.500. Proposed zoning is Rural Residential RR. And the FLUM designation will not change. That is currently split rural density and very low density residential. Next slide, please. So the site in question was de-annexed by the North Carolina General Assembly in 2019, but the de-annexation was not effective until June 30th of 2020. The current development plan dates back to 2003. The case number is P03-37, and it is for a PDR 2.500, which I had stated is a city zoning designation for this formerly annexed site. The site cannot be developed at this density, the PDR 2.500, because there is there's absence of city water and sewer. There's no utilities that have been extended to this property. So the staff was in this is a very rare situation. You won't usually see zoning requests like this. So the staff is actually recommending the county designation, county zoning designation of rural residential RR. That is the least intense designation and is consistent with the future land use map. Next slide, please. You'll see from the context map or from this aerial map that the property is split. Terry Road runs between the two. There's 2 parcels on the north side and 1 large parcel on the south side. Next slide. And this is the zoning context. It shows that the blue is now PDR and we're proposing RR, which is the same as all of the property that is situated around these parcels. They're all currently zoned rural residential. Next slide, please. And the future land use map will not change. You can see here that it is split. The rural tier is north of the purple. I don't know if you can see if it's purple, but it's that squiggly line that runs through the property. And the darker yellow on the south side is the low density residential. Next slide. Staff is available for questions, and I believe there is a representative of the property owner on the call, and there may be another person on the call that's interested in this case as well.
Okay, so thank you. And commissioners, are there any questions for staff? Seeing none. I will, Commissioner Jacobs, did you have your hand up? Okay. I will now open the public hearing and have the county clerk acknowledge any callers on the line or any comments from anyone else that is calling in about this item.
Good evening, commissioners. We do have 3 individuals on the line. We have Patrick Biker, who is representing the property owner. We have Stephen Laypolt, and we also have Johnny Netto.
Okay, would like to start with Mr. Biker.
Good evening, Chairman Howerton, Vice Chair Jacobs, members of the board. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, good evening again, members of the board. I'm Patrick Biker with Morningstar Law Group, and I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm here tonight representing Highland Park Properties, the owner of the 114 acres you all are considering tonight. At the outset, I want to thank Sarah Young and Grace Smith with the Planning Department for their superb effort on this agenda item. We also very much appreciate the service of Senator Mike Woodard and former Senator Floyd McKissick, who spearheaded the efforts to de-annex this property in the General Assembly back in 2019. I hope every member of the board took note of the reference in the staff report to the Planning Department's recommendation for this case, and also that the Planning Commission has recommended approval unanimously. As I'm sure you all are aware, rural residential is the lowest density zoning district in the Durham City County Unified Development Ordinance. On behalf of the property owner, Highland Park Properties, we support the adoption of rural residential zoning for this acreage. And we recognize that you have many other agenda items on your agenda tonight, so I don't want to belabor these points. We do request your support for this staff-initiated zoning map change. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And again, on behalf of our team, we very much appreciate your time tonight. Happy to answer any questions. I understand you'll be able to vote to approve this on Wednesday morning, along with the text amendments that Mr. Stock presented just a few minutes ago. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patrick. Any other comments? Hearing none. Any other additional comments from commissioners?
Chair Howerton, we do have the other two individuals signed up that would like to speak. Stephen Leopold is also on the line.
Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate this. You know, I didn't prepare any formal remarks, to be honest with you. I am a resident on Terry Road. My address is 1723 Terry Road. It sits at the top. You know, I'm somewhat anxious, I think, to see progress here. There is a road that runs through this property. It's a current dirt road, and it is deteriorating, especially with all the rain recently. And so, you know, I do appreciate the board, you know, making the best decisions here for us citizens, and, you know, progress, because I do think we've got some issues with the road out here. Thank you all.
Thank you. And you said there was one other person on the line?
Yes, ma'am. Lastly, we have Johnny Neto on the line.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes. I'm on, I guess not. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Can you hear me now? No.
It's a little bit
Barely.
better. Yeah, go ahead. Try again.
It looks like he's from the line, Chair Howerton. I do have his email address. So if he does not come back in the next few moments, I could just reach out to him and ask him to provide his comments via email, and I could provide those to you guys prior to your vote on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yeah. Any other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Jacobs?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just have to say that this is a historic actual agenda item, because we do not usually have zoning changes come before the Board of County Commissioners anymore. We usually now all of our rezonings and annexations go directly to the city. So this is actually very rare that we would have something like this come before us. And I just want to, I'm in support of this, but I also want to say that I'm in support of what the applicant has, at least the planning staff alluded to, the possible use of the Durham's conservation subdivision ordinance for the future use of this property. And so I don't know if Mr. Johnny, who I'm sorry we didn't get to hear from, And maybe he's giving us proof of how we need to improve broadband out in the more rural areas of the county. That there was discussion about this site being really beautiful piece of property by the Planning Commission, and Tom Miller in particular, but also the staff mention of the use of a conservation subdivision. And I will just say that I would encourage that. I certainly hope that we don't have a development plan with this zoning map change, but I would wholeheartedly encourage the future use of this property for a conservation subdivision ordinance. I'm really proud that Durham implemented this ordinance probably about 12 years ago. I was actually one of the first people to use it in the county in my former life. A company that I worked for used it in Durham for the Pool Farm project. And it's just a great way it's a win-win for the developer, but it also protects the natural environment and water quality and things like that. So I really hope that's that we see in the future with this land. Thank you.
Okay. There's a question, Commissioner Lum.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I see that Joni's still on the line. Maybe if he turns off his camera and just uses his audio, his signal may be better for us to be able to hear him. If we want. Oh, we'll wait for the emails comment.
Great suggestion, though.
Good try.
And I'm happy you
Yeah,
called
that's
him. Yeah.
right.
She saw him.
That's
on the
right. Okay. So I will close the public hearing. And due to virtual meetings, the new rule requires all public hearings to remain open for 24 hours to allow time for additional comments. So if Mr. Johnny has comments, he can make sure that we receive those. The meeting will reconvene on January 27th at 9 a.m., at which time a vote will be considered. So those are our public hearings.
Thank you
Now-
very much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Miss you guys.
So now we have a discussion item, commissioners. We have one item before us tonight, 21056, fiscal year 2021 financial update. The General Manager Claudia Hager will lead this discussion. We also have Susan Tazar, our CFO, Keith Lang, our Budget Director, staff for the agenda item, and I believe County Manager would like to start this conversation off.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Before the staff gets started, I just got some clarifying points I essentially would like to make, and then we will get right into the financial reconciliation and our update. Last Friday, I was made aware of a petition that was occurring related to the $15 an hour. And the petition stated that there was a desire not to use unrestricted fund balance to support the $15 an hour. This was never my position, and I stated that I wanted to make sure that we did our analysis to ensure that we were positioned properly to allocate significant funds. These are standard business practices that have served the county well for many years, and staff has finished that work as of Friday, and we will continue our work in vetting the expenditures. We will have additional policy discussions about the fiscal outlook as standards, particularly for our upcoming budget retreat that will occur. I think it's important to remind the board of the process required to do our work. In April of 2020, I communicated to the Board of Commissioners several steps that would be taken to manage the budget in light of the fiscal unknowns given COVID-19. During that time, we were also faced with the malware attack recovery, and I sent to the board that initial communication that was related in order to help remind some of our newest board members about where we were and how we needed, in fact, to proceed. I shared with the board that we would freeze positions, that we would limit expenditure growth and limit tax increases because of the unknowns with our high number of residents that would be impacted. by the economic challenges such as unemployment. The county staff has maintained our fiscal discipline to help ensure that we stay within the parameters despite pressures to move differently. And many have taken on more work because our positions were in fact frozen. So most of this is happening in many of our key departments that were administrative in nature. And I'm forever grateful for the personal sacrifices to make sure that we kept the county solvent in spite of having to work through many continued nights and weekends to ensure the work was completed due to the number of vacancies that we had. Last week, we had our rating agency reviews, and we were able to share how the county had been able to manage operations in spite of the pandemic and to manage to our fiscal policies, which includes making sure that we have a certain level of reserves. And the approach of judicious management and the evaluation of our fiscal operations in mid-year was received with very positive responses from the bond rating agencies. And although we have not, in fact, at this point, received the final rating, we feel very good and hopes within the next several days that we will, in fact, be hearing from both the bond rating agencies that we met with last Tuesday. As manager, in spite of the public perspective, I must manage to our fiscal guidelines and our policies. And these guardrails shield our organization. The staff's brief report that you will hear tonight is essentially going to let you know that we are in a good financial position at this point, and certainly we're in position to support the classified workers and to support the $15 an hour, along with another request that sort of came in, I won't say at the last minute, but certainly came in within the last couple of board meetings, and that includes, of course, the Hope Learning Centers. It is pretty much standard in terms of a practice that we go through in the February timeframe during the budget process and make sure that we analyze what our position is, and we will be doing that in usual fashion this year. Our county departments will continue to seek ways to find operational efficiencies to promote cost savings whenever applicable. And as manager, I want to remain vigilant in ensuring that we are being the best stewards that we can in respect to the taxpayers' dollars. And that's what we have tried to do as we started along this journey over the last several months when we adopted the ensuing year's budget. And I want to repeat, because obviously there are some misconceptions out there about our fund balance, what it's used for and what it's not used for. Our fund balance reserves were not used to fund any differential pay. It was managed through our existing departmental budgets. And back in October of last year, before our two newest commissioners came on board, this information was shared with our former board. And although the county has an undesignated fund balance, it is important that the levels align with our fund balance policies, which is the 16%. And these factors are evaluated during our rating agency reviews, and we're trying to make certain that we continue to manage to our AAA status. And although we just finished that recent rating, that purpose last Tuesday, the purpose of that meeting was essentially to look at a $70 million refinancing on our GO bonds. I would ask that you be reminded that we will be going back to the rating agencies in a couple of months for more than $150+ million of debt issuance, which will be primarily for our schools. It's extremely important that, as I said in my email to you, as a reminder of the message that we sent out last year in April, that we have a strong fund balance position. And the last thing that I will effectively say is we're fully aware at the staff level that as recent as about midsummer last year, we had AAAs who went forward to issue significant amounts of debts in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and was only given the opportunity to be granted about 1/3 of what they asked for. And so I want to make sure that as a community, we are not in that position. And so as such, I think, as I said earlier, tonight, what you're going to hear from the staff is that we're in great financial position based on the decisions that we made along the way in order to keep us fully solvent. And hopefully, when we get ready to meet with the agencies, the rating agencies in a couple of months, we will be in sound position in order to get all of the money that we need in order to fund the school's capital projects. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the staff. They will walk you through a brief PowerPoint and tell you, what the particulars are, and I'll shut up. So thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good evening. Hope everyone is great tonight. My son told me I needed to have my ring light on, so I put it on. So hopefully, hopefully you can see me better. Wendell, he shared quite a few of my remarks, so I will move a little quickly, and Monica will put up the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is exactly what were in your comments in the 2-pager, but it just looks a little bit better. And Monica, you can advance to the next slide. And although I'm presenting, Keith and Susan Tezai are on, Keith Lane and Susan Tezai are on the line, and as always are helpful in completing this work. As Wendell shared, we'll have a more detailed analytics and overview in February when we have the budget retreat. But just wanted to give you highlights as to where we are now. We'll share fiscal framework for how we did the year, and Wendell went over much of that. So revenue, expenditure highlights, and then we'll just talk about next steps. And this will be real quick, but maybe about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll take questions. And we can go to the next slide. This next slide talks about the framework. And again, Wendell shared much of that. The guidelines for setting and establishing the budget was to limit overall growth. We froze positions with exceptions for areas that related to COVID-19 management or some compliance area type issues. That began early spring of last year. We set aside LAP salary dollars for potential revenue losses and or COVID-related expenditures in the county. And we also had a fund that was set aside for COVID specific expenditures. And that's one that I know all of you are familiar with as we have addressed external issues related to the community. We also deferred many capital purchases and other types of activities just to keep the budget contained. And there was a commitment to look at mid-year to see, well, can we do some of these activities? And that was a part of the overall fiscal analysis. And we can go to the next slide, Monica. This is very tiny, and I will not go through all of it. But at the very bottom, you'll see a number that's at 64.73%. And that's the amount of revenue that we've collected thus far. And Monica, if you go to the next slide, that's 64% of our total budget. Now that number is slightly higher than where we were the same period in 2019, which is a good thing. However, we still have 5 more months to go. And just 2 months ago, we were significantly lower than we were with our collections. And so we are very cautious. We are optimistically cautious that we're in a good place. And based on where we are with collections, again, during the budget retreat, we'll go through the more detailed review, and Keith will give us his very detailed overview and lots of charts and graphs. But for now, because we are still doing our analytics on the mid-year review, we're keeping it at a high level. For the second quarter collection, rates, they're higher, and primarily because compared to first quarter, because we were delayed with sending out our bills. In the first quarter, we had only collected about 5% of the revenues, which was significantly lower than what we had normally collected in previous years. And although we knew a lot of that was because of the timing of property tax bills, we also know that occupancy taxes were pretty much non-existent, and sales taxes we weren't quite sure about. But we are pleased that two things happened, that we were conservative with our collection rate for property taxes. So that's part of the reason we're meeting our numbers. And sales taxes for the first few months have come in on budget. So all of the analytics that the budget department did, and that's an area that Keith is quite versed in and often leaned upon across the state with other budget departments. Those numbers came in at a good place as well. But again, we've not seen the other quarters, and so we're cautious. But we are pleased that we are at a better place than we were even 4 months ago and what we thought we were with our revenue picture. The collection rate is also a little bit better too than budget, because we also received some grant dollars to help us with the COVID-19 related expenses. As you know, that we received dollars for the CARES funding, which we actually recorded in the second quarter, and we received other grants such as the dollars from the nonprofit foundation that helped us with our elections expenses. So the compounded effect of many factors helped our collection rate to be a little bit higher than we were in previous years. But again, as we look at the full year, we're still watching those big revenues real carefully, the property tax collections as we get towards the end of the year, as well as sales taxes. And so we can go to the next slide, and that one will be quite small yet again, but we're going to look at that very bottom number, which is 46.42%, which is the percentage of budget spent. And Monica will go to the next slide. So we're looking at our operating side of the budget for general fund activities. And so when we look at that, our expenditures, and that there's an error on my part, expenditure collections. They're slightly lower, so I'll correct that, than compared to last fiscal year. Usually in prior years, we pace closer to 49%, sometimes lower, but we are pacing lower than we were in the previous fiscal year. For the first quarter, we were pacing a little bit higher than average. And so that pace has slowed down some. And part of that is that we're recognizing some of the planned controls, such as the frozen positions, that's causing for a slower growth rate of expenditures. And also, we're also being very careful with non-COVID related expenses. As you can imagine, with the budget, operating budget of over $400 million, and even on the capital side, when you add it all together, close to 700 million, you can have lots of things that may come up. But departments have been real patient in saying, hey, let's just see how we are. Let's revisit that vacant position. And as Wendell shared, many departments are doing double duty because we've frozen quite a few of the positions, and we're forever grateful for them seeing the bigger picture. And so we've done lots of things to try to make sure that we're in a good position in order to make sure services are managed as they need to be, but also we're addressing the highest priorities. And we can go to the next slide. As far as next steps, Wendell mentioned this, that we will continue to manage towards our financial policies. We have a target of 16% for undesignated fund balance and an overall 35% for fund balance, for the overall fund balance. We are managing AAA, and so that means that although we are a AAA designated county, there are some factors that do pull us down, and we have to offset those factors with how much liquidity we have. And so one of those places which has served us well has been our management of our reserves. And when you look at, well, what does under 16% translate to? That's about 60 days of operating expenses. And so when you look at a budget of this size, that's 60 days is not a long time, but it does provide some cushion, and it provides assurances that we do have a capacity and an ability to manage when there are some swings that may be too high or too low in certain areas, such as revenue swings that are too low or expenditures that are high. And so just wanted to speak to that. Wendell already mentioned this. We do have upcoming financings, the $70 million GO bond refunding, and as well as we will have an issuance for new debt in the spring for $150 million. And so with that, we will have continued reviews of how we're managing, where we project fund balance to land at the end of the fiscal year. Some may question sort of the timing of how we make these decisions and do our assessments. When we look at our budget, we try to determine, well, how are the revenues coming in, and will you need to dip into fund balance? So that's the question. And so at the beginning of the fiscal year, because we were not sure how we would land, we were not sure if we would actually have to use fund balance. In the past, I guess 20 some years, it's only been 1 year that we've actually used fund balance. And Susan Tezak can correct me, but I believe that was in 2010 or 2009.
2009, ma'am.
2009, okay. That was during the last recession. And so counties or entities try to manage so that although you may appropriate fund balance, so for instance, we appropriate $17 million we did for this year in the general fund, the intent is not to use those dollars. The intent is that your spending will be at a point and your revenues will be at a point that you will not actually have to use those dollars. So as we looked at, well, how expenses that we can manage for the rest of the year, it is a question of, well, what are our projections, revenues and expenditure wise, and how do we plan to manage, and how does that place us with our overall reserves? And so we'll talk about that a lot more in the budget retreat, and but just wanted to speak to that a little bit. We can go to the next slide, Monica. Okay, as far as next steps, as we shared, are continuing to do our mid-year review. We typically do this mid-year analysis through February. For fiscal operations, when you close out a month, you usually have several weeks that you're doing reconciliations. And once those reconciliations have stopped, then you'd make your final assessment. Now, we've done this one prematurely, but we feel good about what we've done. But we will continue to evaluate deferred expenditures that we've not done, delayed capital expenditures, positions not hired, and we will make some recommendations to the manager. And for those that require board review, we will share those with the board. For instance, there is the pot that we set aside for COVID-related expenses, the $4.5 million. And Keith can correct me if I've reversed the numbers. But we may have now left, after we've done these allocations, $30,000 left there. So it would be a recommendation from staff to have a strategy to use lap salaries to cover those expenses going forward. So, and we would come up with a number based on projected expenses that we've seen. For an example, we've had increased costs for cleaning buildings. We've had dollars that we've expended for security that are somewhat at slightly higher levels. I could go through a whole lot of lists, but we have a list of those items that have been pent up, and we've been reshuffling dollars within departmental budgets, but we know timing wise, we will have to manage those. So the other steps that we'll be working on is just refining budget realignments that may need to happen within the departments. The budget department has done a great job of asking folks, well, hey, can you manage that through your own budget right now? And can you limp along until next year? So a lot of those negotiations have occurred. We've learned a lot this last 10 months between COVID and malware attacks that we will continue our operational assessments and identify process improvements and efficiencies. And so although we know we are lean, we are also trying to see, well, do we need to be leaner? And we also know that at any moment, the fiscal picture landscape may change. So we're again trying to plan ahead for that. The board retreat is on the 23rd of February, and we will have even more detailed insight about our fiscal outlook. And I think that may be my last bullet there. And right, so I can entertain questions. And again, Susan and Keith are available as well to weigh in as needed.
Commissioners, you have questions? Commissioner Alam.
Thank you, Chairwoman Howerton. I didn't have a question. I had a quick comment that I wanted to make, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to really celebrate what we've accomplished tonight, that all of us as a board have voted for the $15 retroactive pay. And I want to take a moment to applaud my fellow commissioners for being champions in this fight alongside me. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and appreciate the years of grassroots organizing that took place to get us to this point. And this is a long overdue raise that the people of Durham put their trust in all of us, an all-female board of commissioners, to bring it home and get the job done. And that's what we've done unanimously tonight. And as an organizer myself, can I just say how much I've loved and appreciated the level of engagement from almost 300 residents and neighboring county residents who are supporters of the Fight for 15. I, as well as my fellow commissioners, have expressed our support for this raise at countless forums and questionnaires, so much so that all of us are proud endorsees of the Durham Association of Educators. And all of us are accountable to you, the people of Durham, and we answer to you. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to even be held accountable at this level on an issue I'm a steadfast supporter of. And I want to just close with a loving nudge to my colleagues that we've all collectively won the Fight for 15 tonight. And I, for one, am ready to start the fight for 23.
You.
I don't know what that meant.
Is it my turn? Is it my turn? Netta, somebody paid you for that. Is it my turn?
Go, Commissioner Burns.
No, listen, and don't worry, there'll be hate emails tomorrow because I didn't clap for Netta. I mean, if somebody on here says the word, I want to be conservative about my soda intake, there's going to be 1,200 emails because the word conservative was used. Claudia, I heard you use it. Don't use it again, girl. Like, do not say it again on camera. I do want to echo the sentiments of, because it's very timely that Commissioner Alam does it now. And she did it at a perfect time because we're going over, we got our finance update from our budget staff. And she and I talked a lot this weekend. I talked to some of the other county commissioners. And I promise you, Brenda, I will not take long with what I'm about to say. But you are right, Netta, that we were endorsed by these groups. And you know, it's one of those things, if you've been fighting for so long, you don't know how not to fight. So I would ask that people would trust that when not five women, when 5 leaders tell you that they're going to do something, recognize that it will be done. And it was done in less than 60 days. I want to throw that out there as well, because we came here on a mission. And not only was it done in less than 60 days, it was done the right way. We worked closely with staff to make sure it was done. Before I got into office, I knew how important this was for the community. And once I made it through the primary, one of the things I did specifically was go to the manager and I said, can we do this? I was like, this is big for us. I know can we do this? And he said 2 words, no problem. Those are his 2 words, and he even gave me 3 or 4 different ways to do it. And I went to a lot of the heads of these organizations and I explained those 3 ways. I did that both before, during, and after, and I knew that we would be able to do it. I knew that our staff was trying to apply for reimbursements for CARES. I knew that our staff was taking in taxes. I knew that our staff had to go and apply. I know we we did get in our application that week for additional eviction funding because the stimulus bill came down. So there were a lot of applications opening up. I also know that, like I said, we had our bond rating the next day. So we were very strategic, and I actually talked to the board members at the school board, talked to the superintendent about whether or not the CFO could actually get these on the checks on the 22nd, on which day. And we didn't want to just go back to August because we had bus drivers who were driving in the summer. We wanted to make sure we captured everybody. And so I'm going through all of this to let you all know, Commissioner Lon, myself, other people on the county commission, we actually made sure that we told the community that there was a methodology and that process and progress are not mutually exclusive. And I hope that that lesson was learned this afternoon. I will say, Commissioner Carter, you've worked on this for a long time, so congrats. You've had that sign back there for quite some time. I thought that one of the county commissioners would have came to our rescue when the emails came down. I certainly came to everybody's rescue. I called every president I could to say, this is not what this is. I've talked to the CFOs. This is going to happen. It will be on the checks. And as of, I think, let's see, it's 8:51. We have gotten 4 emails from people saying you all need to pass this, and we passed it an hour ago. So it just lets me know that there are people out there who don't understand this process, and there are people in positions of power who might not have a vested interest in making sure that they know that. So I just want you to know that myself, along with Commissioner Lom, we talked this weekend, and I know that we are dedicated to making sure that the public does not have to go through this type of tug of war again. And I'll end with this. I was birthed in protest. So when you can't go out and actually, protest, email is your best protest. And I'm thinking about all the emails that we've gotten about fences and birds, which I do care about, but we haven't gotten any on natural open space. I'm almost done, Brenda. I'm almost done. You're gonna have to just call it out, natural open spaces and watershed protection, but there's no email campaign on that. Less than 20% of Black and brown boys are at reading level in Durham, but there's no email campaign on that. The majority of Black and brown boys go to Durham Tech and cannot start an associate's degree, and they have to do the first year of remedial class, but there's no email campaign on that. We talk about transit, but a lot of our public school systems do not have bus stops, and there are many teachers who don't have cars and employees who don't have cars. So when we talk about transit, we got to make sure that there are bus stops at our schools, but there's no email campaign on that. Despite the fact that female infant mortality for Black women has been pinpointed as an issue for 3 consecutive budgets, there's no email campaign for dead Black babies or Black women who subsequently die because they gave birth to dead Black babies. So when the school board didn't turn in their application for hazard pay last year for the teachers that so richly deserved it, there was no email campaign for that. There are buses that don't go to all 3 Durham Tech campuses so that people can finish up the associate's degrees that they need. And there are 100 million other issues that don't have email campaigns. So please trust that we're going to work on these issues, the ones you highlight and the ones that you do not. And I'm prayerful that I continue to do what I said I set out to do. Number 1, I never get tired of doing the right thing. Number 2, we treat you much better than you treat us. And number 3, that we do great things on this board collectively, in spite of what some folks might want us to do, and that we continue to defend each other. And I will not say anything else, but I congratulate the staff, I congratulate the commissioners, and I congratulate those grassroots groups. And that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Other comments from commissioners? Commissioner Jacobs?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I do want to celebrate the moment. I think this is a great moment for our board, and I just really happy that all of us have joined together. It's really historic, and there's just no greater way to make a difference in somebody's life right now. And so I've already been hearing stories just about from stories about classified staff getting their paycheck from this month, from January, and really seeing what a big increase in their salaries. So I'm just excited about us all taking this action together. And I just want to also mention the Hope Learning Centers as well. That was on our consent agenda, that saw this wonderful testimony on the Bull City Schools email the other night, because they just reached their goal of raising $1.5 million, and was recounting a story of a parent who is a frontline worker, and really depends on the Hope Learning Centers for her children when she goes to work, and how much her kids enjoy being there. So I'm really excited about our board supporting both of these things that make a difference in people's lives in our community. And I will say that for me, the history goes back a long time as well. The only 2 times in 8 years that I have voted against this budget was both around pay for classified staff and other Durham Public Schools staff. So this is great. I look forward to our board continuing to make history together and making a difference in people's lives together. And I do have questions about the financial report that Claudia gave us, but I'll wait until everybody has a chance to make comments celebrating the moment.
Commissioner Carter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too feel immense relief and just a lot of gratitude, honestly, to my colleagues for coming together, all of us, and approving this unanimously. It's a great feeling. I'm grateful to our staff for the intense budget analytics and fiscal management that we so desperately rely on you for. I'm grateful to our community for just letting us know what your priorities are in such a clear way and holding us accountable. And I am mostly grateful that Durham Public Schools classified staff, our instructional assistants and bus drivers and cafeteria workers and others that are among the classified group of employees are going to come closer to a fair wage and will finally match all other public employees in Durham and across the state, at least in Durham. And so I think that Naimashina laid out a great agenda for us in the issues that we're not hearing from the community on yet. Let's make a list of those for sure, and let's start attacking them.
Well, I hear from them in my community. I was pointing out there no emails, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
We hadn't gotten 400 yet, but you're right. We hear from them in trickles and sometimes louder than others, but let's start laying out what are our priority issues and let's get some things done here, because I know that we share so many common visions and goals, and that's what we need to move forward towards.
So okay, so I have a few things to say, and then we will have questions if there are anything about the financial report. So we've got a little bit more time. So this is what I'd like to say, and I am appreciative of my board as well that we went ahead and got this done. But there are a couple of things that I want to address. The truth and process matter. For somebody that raised 4 children on beginning on $168 every 2 weeks. I know what it's like not to have money and have to take care of families. So this conversation is not something that I don't know anything about. So our manager has overseen county operations in a way that is fiscally prudent during this unprecedented crisis. I applaud our staff for judicious fiscal management and withstanding unwarranted public criticism while they carried on with the charge of protecting the overall operations. We gave staff ample time to do research, and they came back to us with information that allowed us to make the best decision. Each board member was and is in support of $15 for the DPS classified staff. You know, it's called doing the right thing, and we did the right thing. As we become more intentional and focused to contend with the culture and climate of our board, it is important that we are mindful that the narratives we share to the public and stories we circulate to the public are factual. We know now more than ever there are real consequences when people we serve are accountable to believe alternative facts instead of truth. We saw this month on January 6th in DC what happens when alternative facts are put on and narratives are put out in the public. Accountability is required, that we tell the truth. I'm looking forward to the chance for us to develop a new board through training opportunities and discussion about our personal and collective commitments and action, because talk is cheap to addressing systemic racism in this community. We have to and must be responsible for the facts that we put out in this community. So Claudia, there's one question that I would like to ask, and Commissioner Burns brought it up earlier a little bit about, you know, as we were at the health department and we saw, we congratulated and we've almost hugged our health director tonight, but we couldn't get that close to him. When I was there on Saturday and I saw all of our staff, the health workers, putting their life on the line to make sure that our community is taken care of. So my question is, hazard pay. Is it that they don't deserve hazard pay, even though they're putting their lives on the line that way? Is there something that we should be doing as leaders for the 10% to compensate our employees for doing that kind of work? Because it's not very many people that would want to be in that close proximity to people, that many people all day long.
Madam Chair, I know you called on Claudia, but I'd like to respond to that.
Sure.
Claudia speaks up. So look, at the end of the day, you know, we had these long drawn out conversations about hazard pay, but I just want to make sure that the board is clear that this month we will be submitting for our reimbursements to the feds on hazard pay. We are delighted that we have been able to manage the manner in which we have through this difficult last 10 months. We are delighted that we have the capacity to not only do the $15 an hour and to fund, you know, the Hope Learning Centers, but I'll just have to share with you and the rest of the board, quite frankly, the questions that I'm confronted with every day. I was in the Human Services Complex last week, and a couple of the employees came right up to me and asked, are we getting our hazard pay back? I've gotten phone calls from other employees throughout the enterprise asking the same questions. Our EMS workers are on the street. Our sheriff's deputies are on the street. Our detention officers are doing their work inside the jail. You've seen the public health operations day in and day out. These people are there at 7 a.m. and they're putting vaccines in folks' arms until 7 p.m. And as you witnessed yourself, oftentimes it's 9 o'clock before they leave the building. We still have people at the wastewater treatment plant, and all sorts of pathogens come through that plant on a daily basis. SARS, COVID, you name it. All of these employees are in hazardous environments, including the employees who have been taken out of their traditional roles and asked to stand at doors and screen people in. And with the variant being what it is, based on what we are hearing to date in terms of how aggressive, how much more aggressive, should I say, that it is spreading. I absolutely have concerns for all of our employees. And I think your question was, do they deserve hazard pay? Absolutely. And it's absolutely the kinds of things that I will continue to advocate for and push for all of my staff, because, at the end of the day, these are the people for the last 10 months who has made it all happen for our community. And, you oftentimes hear police officers say they risk their lives every day and put their lives on the line. All of our employees who are engaged in our facilities day in and day out are doing the same exact thing. So thank you.
So is it, if we're in such good fiscal shape, what does that, I guess I'm not clear, what does that mean for
So Claudia pointed out, and I said it in my earlier comments, we've got 5 more months in the fiscal year. But I want to be very clear, as I said earlier, we're getting ready to make our submission to the feds for our reimbursements. Can we afford to make sure that employees are in fact receiving that 10% hazard pay? Yes, we are in the position that we can do that. And you heard from Susan a few weeks ago, based on the management strategy that we employed when we initially put this budget in place, our fund balance, we had experienced on our year-end audit about 8.9 million in growth on the fund balance, but that's not touching any fund balance that we budgeted. Once again, it is essentially the savings we've created by putting mitigation strategies in place. And so, yes, we can afford to do that. And again, I don't want to make light of the fact that, once again, these are federal reimbursements. And as I shared with some of the commissioners in conversations earlier today, I've been doing this work for 30 years now. I have managed through all sorts of hurricanes and other natural disasters. I've never once been engaged in a state of emergency whereby the feds did not fund or refund our reimbursements for these types of events. And so I want to make sure that everybody under the sound of my voice is very clear about what our experiences has been, and what we are effectively basing our analytical work on. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. And I would like for my board to consider this conversation. Commissioner Long.
I have a follow-up question to Manager Davis. So with the reimbursement request going in next month, and this conversation that Chairwoman Howerton is bringing up and Commissioner Burns are leading, with the discussion of providing potential hazard pay to our staff who are vaccinating and testing, who are frontline workers right now and most exposed, would that be able to be included in the hazard pay reimbursement, or just so I can understand, or is this like, would we be supporting this from the fund balance? And for the public, like, I support this either way it's done. I truly believe and agree that they should be receiving support.
So based on what we have saved year to date as a result of the mitigation measures that we have taken, it won't again be coming from fund balance. It will be coming from the strategies that we've employed. Number one.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Yes.
Right. Number two, well, you had another part to your question.
You are submitting the reimbursement request for next month for the previous hazard pay. Would this be included in that, or is it going to be a separate application?
You mean if we
provide hazard pay to the staff who are providing testing and vaccinations?
Oh yeah, all of those things would be included in our hazard pay submission, but the submission that we are referring to is effectively work that has occurred by the staff in previous months. And so if there is a desire on behalf of the board to reinstitute the hazard pay because we were asked to pause it for our employees, then that would perhaps happen at a later submission. The state and the feds essentially re-employed a strategy that afforded us the opportunity to submit, I believe, every 3 months now. And so with that expedited process, because it wasn't set up, it wasn't structured that way in other hazards that we had gone through, that will afford us the opportunity to submit our cost or expenditures at a later date.
And Madam Chair, may I ask of staff then, if for our next meeting when we come together, if they can present to us the cost of providing hazard pay to individuals who are providing vaccines and testing for COVID?
Yeah, one of the bullets was that we would come back with a list of expenditures that we know that are on the forefront, and I didn't mention that one. We will and are exploring what other jurisdictions have done as well. For instance, the city of Durham, they gave employees 5 weeks of time that they have to use it a certain way. And so it will be a look at a combination of things, but mainly making sure that we are covering those who are in the front lines in a way that they are compensated. Because again, as a manager, general manager with lots of departments under me, anytime I have a call that someone has been impacted directly or indirectly, it's just tough. And so we are grateful every day that they come and they're committed to help serve the community. So that is high on the list. We just did not have enough time to do our due diligence to make sure that we were prepared adequately for the conversation tonight.
Commissioner Alam, I'd like to just add one other comment regarding this particular issue. And I heard you say, loud and clear, certainly the folks who are administering vaccines and others. But across the enterprise where we have employees in every department who are exposed, whether they're administering the vaccine or not, Susan's on the screen there. She will tell you that she has had multiple cases of COVID in her department. Okay. And she's the finance director, CFO, and she's working in a building across the street that's administrative function. And so I don't take that lightly. And the last thing I would want to do as manager is to cherry pick, because that would further impact the employee morale across the entire enterprise. And so, as I said, I've got EMS workers that are on the street picking up patients every day, getting them, to the hospital. We've got detention officers that are overseeing jail population. We've got deputies in our sheriff's department that are on the streets, with people on a daily basis. And so, I hear what you said, but I want to be clear that we are all clear about what we're talking about and not create an internal, further internal morale issue for all of our respective employees.
So
And just to speak to that, please, Madam Chair, he's right. Finance is in the same building as EMS. So you've got people who are on the front line coming in and possibly contaminating. We've had to close finance down twice because of exposure. We've had to extensively clean our floor twice. And so while I've got people who can work remote, working 100% remote, for business operations, I can't have that all the time. We've got to come in to print checks. We've got to come in to do payroll. So he's right. And my people have come in religiously, even knowing the risk. And my husband's high risk, but I've been in there every day trying to support these staff because they needed somebody in management there helping them, supervising them, answering their questions, helping resolve all the different issues we had with cyber. So I agree with the manager.
Yeah. So can you come back to us at our next meeting with possibilities that we can take a look at and have a discussion about?
Yes, we can come back.
Some scenarios of what does it look like?
We will come back and have additional information at the next meeting. Depending upon time, we'll determine how much we can share. But we're consistent in how we do our work. So we will come back, and some of it will be a revisitation of what we've shared in the past.
Okay.
But we will also have information benchmarks from other places.
Okay, Commissioner Jacobs.
Thank you. I have requests about some basic information that we still haven't gotten. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Alam. There's no doubt that if we have to think about prioritizing, where we use county dollars, which are public dollars, that right now we know that those folks who are involved with the vaccine, giving vaccines, are certainly putting themselves in direct contact with people and saving lives directly with that. But I think a few things that we really need. Number one is we still have no idea how much money that we have spent so far on hazard pay, because the last accounting we got was through September 30th. And I don't even know what day it was paused. I don't know, was it early December? I'm not sure. But if we could get a full accounting of how much we have spent on hazard pay and overtime, and then also just what the process is going to look like, because since we have not submitted to FEMA yet, and so we just don't know, again, if we're going to get the 75% from them and 25% from the state. And if there's any information about any counties around the country who have submitted so far and gotten reimbursement, because last time I tried to do some research, I didn't see anything positive about that. So any information that we do have related to that. Also just about what the policies have been with other local governments, because of course, if we had unlimited resources, we would absolutely want to keep giving hazard pay, not just to county employees, but city and Durham public schools, everybody. I mean, anybody who is going to work right now in our community deserves hazard pay. There's no question about that. But again, I just want to understand, because the other thing is I think we need to have a discussion, as you alluded, Claudia, what are other expenses that we're going to be looking at needing, since we basically have run out of our $5 million worth of COVID funding, and we know we still have the rest of this fiscal year and other community needs that we may have related to food and rental assistance and small business assistance or homeless, whatever. I also would like us to be able to have a discussion about what other community needs we may have and where we're going to get the funding from for that, since we would be using, again, the lapsed salaries strategy has been to cover the hazard pay, but that was in April, Mr. Manager, when you gave us your, blueprint for looking at how to manage our expenses. It was also in the context of unknowns about COVID and revenues and other county needs that we may have. Actually, hazard pay was not even mentioned at that point. So just thinking about, again, I know that right now, as you mentioned, Claudia, that you all are asking staff to look at conservative budgets and what it looks like if departments have to cut their budgets. And that's also concerning to me too, if that again is related to how we spend our funds, because for instance, being chair of the DSS board, those cuts would mean cutting unmandated services like rental assistance and some of the other emergency assistance and food assistance and things that we give at DSS would be cut. So I just think we need to have a really big picture of understanding that every choice that we make impacts other decisions that come down the line and can impact other services for people in our community. So I want to make sure that we make a fully informed decision about anything that we do. So if we can get that information that we haven't gotten yet, that would be great.
All right, two things.
Go ahead, Claudia. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure during one of the meetings we shared what the hazardous pay amounts were. So I'm confident in November or October, one of those. So I'll circle back to that because I know we had many emails.
Okay.
But so we can get that pretty quickly.
Okay. I don't know when it ended because
Sure.
we decided on November 23rd, but I assume it was in the middle of a pay period anyway.
Yeah, but we can firm that up. It's also important to clarify that these expenses would happen within a department's budget. I think when Susan did the analytics, it's one thing if I'm having to, if we're having to increase a department's budget to do this, the places that we would need to do that would be in our public safety areas. And those are ones that would naturally need it. But for instance, general services, that's an area that falls in my portfolio. Many of those individuals, those ladies and men, they are in high risk areas, and they are unfortunately at great risk. And so we've been able to manage those expenses within that $13 million budget. And so they only, if by memory, may have had $100,000 worth of hazardous pay expense. So again, from a budget perspective, it's in those public safety areas that are concerned. It's not the others. When you talk about, well, what will be the pressures? It's in those places. And those are the places based on our policies for differential pay that we would definitely get reimbursed. So for us, it's a cash flow and a timing issue. And we have pretty much shown that how we're managing all of our sort of budget strategies, whether it's for this expense or for unsheltered expenses or other expenses, we've been able to manage the cash flow. But we'll come back with some strategies and some clarification, and then some education about what we've done, and so that you can see how it's happened, because most of that analytics has already happened. So we'll be fine.
Great, thank you.
And Claudia, could you clarify something that for the public, to make sure that the public is clear that what we're talking about is not going to having any impact on taking any funds away from DSS, Commissioner Jacobs said something about funds. You may have to eliminate some funds, and I don't want the public left with any of untruths.
Madam Chair, we will manage to those critical priorities as we have always managed to those critical priorities throughout the past 10 months of this pandemic. And so, no, I don't want to leave the public or anyone else with the impression that those are the kinds of critical services that we would have to eliminate. So we have always prioritized those things that were important for the community in order to keep us safe and secure throughout this pandemic. We will continue to manage forward in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go, Commissioner Carter, anything for you? We've got about another 5 minutes or so. Anything else for you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm okay. I tend to put a lot of really faith in our administration, especially when they're recommending we spend money. I push a little harder when it's a recommendation or it feels like a reluctance to spend. So anyway, I'm okay. I'm looking forward to more information.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on real
just
quickly
talking about
then.
spending though, I just don't have a
Commissioner
question
Jacobs,
about.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Jacobs, we really need to move on. We've spent over 40 minutes on this item.
Okay, it's just, I didn't get to finish asking for when we come back, because we did have that $4.3 million that was set aside originally. So I'm wondering, is that something that we can look at, the $4.3 million?
Well, that is those were part of my comments as well, that we'll look at what's happening for the remaining of the fiscal year. And we have a running list right now. So,
okay.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I will ask our attorney to read the results of the appointments, please. We've got board and commission appointments.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if you're ready to proceed on that, I will certainly give you that information. You're ready?
Yes.
All right. For the Adult Oversight Committee, you can select one person, and you have selected Andrew Holland. For the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, you could select one person, and you've selected Michael Shepard. For the Boxing and Wrestling Commission, you could select one person. You've selected Italo Medelius. For the Durham Community Safety and Wellness Committee, you could select two individuals. Under Justice Involved, Jatoya Potts, and Community Organization, you've selected Mangola Rajendran. For the Gold Triangle Advisory Committee, you could select three individuals, and you selected Alexander Castro Jr., James Savara, and Edward Harrison. That concludes your votes.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Jacobs.
Yeah, I just had wondered, we had a discussion earlier about the one slot that we haven't had any applicants yet. And I didn't know if you had any conversations about that.
Commissioner Jacobs, I did talk with, as I said to you, communicated to you earlier, that I had already reached out to several people that I needed to follow up with around that person. And I did follow up, and there is one applicant. And I need to have a conversation with Monica as to what's the process of making sure that that person fills the application out. And my intention was not to do that in this process right here at the board meeting. We'll do that. I'll do that later. All right. Thank you. All right. Next, we have a closed session. The board is requested to go into closed session for the following: to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the areas served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations pursuant to GS 143.18.11A4, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged to GS 143-318.11A3.
Madam Chair, I move we go into closed session for the reasons you stated.
Okay,
Second.
a second.
Mhm.
And we have to have a voice vote.
All right, we will start with Commissioner Alam,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Carter,
Yes.
Chair Howerton,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Jacobs.
Yes.
All right.
We're in closed session. Yeah, I don't have any problem with this one.
Chair Howerton, we do have Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Alam, and Commissioner Carter on the line. We also have the manager.
Okay, so we have met in closed session and provided direction for staff. Can need a motion to adjourn or recess.
So moved.
Which one?
Oh, motion.
We need a second.
Well, is it to
Wait, so do we
adjourn or-
motion
Is it-
to?
Yeah, because you
yeah.
said two things and she said so moved, so we got to go
Yeah.
back. Which one is the motion to adjourn?
So if we motion to, do we have to motion to recess to tomorrow's session
Wednesday for the vote.
for the ones?
I thought we'd already recessed.
Okay.
Where's
Already.
y'all? We're on camera. Just thought I'd let everyone know that.
We are going to adjourn
Get some Robert's Rules of Order.
until the 22nd. Yeah, I have those that we need to go
No,
over.
not you. I'm picking on Netta. No, excuse me,
Oh,
Commissioner
all
Locke.
of us need, the board needs to go over those, but let's adjourn for tonight, ladies. So somebody made a motion. Was there a second?
Then that'll make the proper
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I second.
Okay, and a voice vote. Commissioner Long,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Burns,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. We have adjourned.
Bye.
Thanks,
Good night,
everybody.